My name is Michael Gans. I'm with the Prince Albert Historical Society, and I'm not dressed to do this. But I walked in and they said, "Will you do the introduction?" I'm like, "Oh, I have nothing prepared." But appropriately, I went to AI. Well done. So I don't know if any of this is factual, but we'll find out. Neil Headrick, Bridging History and Media. Commonly known to radio listeners as the Doc of Rock, Neil Headrick is a prominent voice and digital artist in the Prince Albert community. While his career in broadcasting established him as a local staple, he has more recently become celebrated for his technical artistry in preserving the city's heritage. Neil's a key presenter for the Prince Albert Historical Society, obviously, where he specializes in the digital revitalization of archival material. His work involves restoration, colorization, historical animation, and public education. And through his creative process from preparing archival photos to applying complex digital transformations, Neil ensures that the spirit of Prince Albert's original images is preserved while making the city's history more accessible to modern audiences.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
I have no idea who that guy is. Thank you.
I was going to make a comment that I've only met Neil a few times, and he absolutely has a face for radio. As a radio presenter, I'm sure you've heard this more than me. But I can say that on our Facebook page, one of the biggest draws we've had in the last little while is when we get Neil's images, his videos, and it's a huge draw to the community. And so I think the AI is correct. It does take old things that aren't appealing to a modern audience and makes them interesting and accessible. So I'm not quite sure. You all know what he has prepared for us because he's made these beautiful brochures. So you don't need to listen to me anymore.
Thank you very much. You don't need me now.
No.
Everything that I was going to say. Actually, one of my jobs here today is to make everybody forget about hockey for an hour. and give Canada a big hand for What we are going to do is teach you, each and every one of you will be able to go home today and colorize that box of old pictures that you got in the attic. And to explain that a little better than I would, we're going to do that right after a podcast that was made back in November. And it's information from an interview that I did with PA Now. And it will explain everything you need to know. I've never shared this online because it makes me sound a lot smarter than I really am. I'll be the first one to say that I'm not too bright. And
I'll second it.
I'll be the second one to say that I'm not that bright. But you'll see how easy it is to colorize your own photos, and we'll let these folks explain it. And it's an audio podcast, and I've added a little video to make it a little more interesting. And now I'm going to sit down. I hope that's not too rude. And we'll have a listen.
Welcome to Co-Pilot Podcasts. What if I told you that people who lived 150 years ago are moving, blinking, and smiling at us right now? Today, we're exploring how AI is breathing life into Prince Albert's historical photos, revealing untold stories and connecting us with our past in ways never before possible.
It's absolutely fascinating how technology is transforming these static moments into living memories.
And at the center of this transformation is Neil Headrick, a local resident who's been using AI to animate historical photos from Prince Albert's archives. His work has captured quite a bit of attention, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. In just the past month, his enhanced photos have been viewed nearly 800,000 times on social media. It all started when he bought some digitized photos from the Prince Albert Historical Society about 25 years ago.
For just $8, right? Talk about a worthwhile investment.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is how he's evolved his technique over time. He started by simply adding color to black and white photos, but now he's using AI to bring them to life with subtle movements.
Can you walk us through how this process actually works?
Sure. It starts with scanning the original print at high resolution to preserve all the details. Then there's a cleanup phase using tools like Photoshop to remove dust and scratches.
Kind of like digital restoration?
Exactly. After that, AI colorization is applied to create a plausible color version of the grayscale image. The final step is adding subtle animations, things like eye blinks or slight head movements.
You know what's fascinating? This reminds me of Prince Albert himself, the royal one, and his relationship with photography.
Oh, that's such an interesting connection. Prince Albert was actually one of the earliest royal adopters of photography. In 1842, he sat for what became the earliest surviving photograph of any royal family member.
Wait, really? So he was kind of a tech enthusiast of his time?
Absolutely. He saw photography as this perfect blend of art, science, and technology. He and Queen Victoria became major patrons of photography in the 1850s.
Let's bring it back to our Prince Albert, the city. How has this AI enhancement project affected the community's connection to its history?
Well, according to Headrick, when you add colour and movement to these old photos, people connect with them on a much deeper level. They stop being just historical artifacts and become real people.
Can you give us an example?
There's this fascinating photo of Samuel MacLeod from 1896. He was an entrepreneur, alderman, and mayor of Prince Albert. When animated, you can see his expressions, the way he holds himself.
It makes him feel more like a real person than just a name in a history book.
Exactly. And the AI can even help describe the historical context. Like with the Strand Theatre photo, it can identify when it was built in 1919 and even when it closed in 1977.
That's incredible. It's like having a historian built into the technology.
And what's really fascinating is watching Prince Albert's growth through these photos. The population went from just 1,785 people in 1901 to over 37,000 today.
But I have to ask, are there any concerns about modifying historical photos like this?
That's a really important question. The key is maintaining the integrity of the original images. Headrick always preserves the original scans and keeps high-resolution masters of everything.
So it's about enhancement rather than alteration?
Precisely.
Whoops, sorry.
I'll get that, Neil.
Always, okay, here's a tip. Always turn off your, always turn off your texting. Here we go. This is going way better than I thought.
What if I told...
In 1977.
That's incredible. It's like having a historian built into the technology.
And what's really fascinating is watching Prince Albert's growth through these photos. The population went from just 1,785 people in 1901 to over 37,000 today.
But I have to ask, are there any concerns about modifying historical photos like this?
That's a really important question. The key is maintaining the integrity of the original images. Headrick always preserves the original scans and keeps high-resolution masters of everything.
So it's about enhancement rather than alteration?
Precisely. Every change is documented, and you can always trace back to the source material. It's about making history more accessible, not changing it.
And how has the Prince Albert Historical Museum responded to this project?
They've been very supportive. The museum has substantial photographic holdings, and many items sit in archival storage, unseen by most residents.
So this is really bringing their archives to life, quite literally.
Yes, and Headrick is planning to work more closely with the Historical Society to make even more of their collection accessible.
What kind of tools is he using for this work?
He uses a combination of Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini, and traditional editing tools like Photoshop. It's really about finding the right balance of different technologies.
And these are tools that are available to anyone?
Yes, that's what makes this so exciting. These are consumer-level AI tools that any history enthusiast could potentially use.
It's democratizing historical preservation in a way.
Exactly. And it's not just about the technology, it's about making these historical connections more meaningful for people today.
Speaking of connections, how do people typically react when they see these animated photos for the first time?
The reactions are often quite emotional. People say it's like seeing their ancestors come to life, even if they're not directly related.
That must be incredibly powerful.
It is, and it's helping people understand that Prince Albert was a vibrant community hundreds of years ago, just as it is today.
Let's talk about some of the challenges. What are the main difficulties in this kind of work?
Well, some photos are quite damaged or faded, and getting good results requires a lot of careful restoration work before the AI can even be applied.
I imagine the quality of the original photo makes a big difference.
Absolutely. And sometimes the AI might make assumptions about colors or details that we can't be entirely sure about historically.
How do you handle that uncertainty?
The key is being transparent about what's been enhanced or modified. It's important to maintain that historical integrity while making the past more accessible.
Do you think this technology will become more common in museums and historical societies?
I think it's inevitable. We're seeing more and more institutions experimenting with these tools to make their collections more engaging.
It's like bringing museums into the 21st century.
And what's really exciting is that this is just the beginning. The technology is constantly improving.
What do you think the future holds for this kind of historical preservation?
I think we'll see more interactive experiences, maybe even virtual reality reconstructions based on these enhanced photos.
That would be incredible, walking through historical Prince Albert.
Yes, and it all starts with these simple photographs that someone thought to preserve over a century ago.
It really makes you think about what we're preserving today for future generations.
Absolutely. Every photo we take today could be someone's window into history 100 years from now.
As we wrap up, what would you say is the most important impact of this project?
I think it's the way it's helping people connect with their community's history on an emotional level. These aren't just old photos anymore, they're windows into living moments.
And that connection to the past helps us understand our present better.
Exactly. When you can see the expressions on people's faces from 1896, you realize they weren't so different from us.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode of Co-Pilot Podcasts. From black and white to living color, we've seen how technology is breathing new life into old memories.
And remember, every old photo holds a story waiting to be brought back to life.
Thanks for joining us on this journey through time. Until next time, keep looking at old photos. They might just start moving.
And there you have it. That is the, yeah, go ahead. By the way, every one of those photos did start out as a black and white historical society photo. And by the way, those people who sound very, very professional, we've never met them because they don't exist. They are not real people. That is artificial intelligence. And I think why artificial intelligence is so popular is because real intelligence seems to be lacking in the world. So what we'll do now, all of those pictures, as I said, were black and white. And we're going to show you how you can do the same thing to all of your pictures at home. And we'll just do that right now. Who's this guy? Does anyone know? That is Mr. McConnell, I believe it was, from Central Fruit and Candy Kitchen. Now, what we are going to do is go to one of my AI, they call them AI clients for whatever reason. I'm going to hit the plus sign. I'm going to go get that photo out of my photo albums.
Gemini, is that the app you?
Gemini is an app you can get for free. I'd certainly never pay for anything, but and we picked Mr. McConnell again. And with AI, like any computer generated stuff, you just have to tell it what to do and it will do it. So we'll say colorize, the American spelling, and press the button and wait. And while we're waiting, we have a skill testing question. What year was the viaduct built? Who knows?
63.
There's no prize.
No,
No, earlier.
30?
It was 1939. Okay, and there's Mr. McConnell in color. So it brings out a lot of detail as well as the color. And let's do another one.
So you just add the picture to the app.
Yeah, hit the plus sign, go to my photos. We're gonna do one,
Do you, Neil?
how about,
Dorky, what are you?
no, I don't wanna do that. We'll tell it to colorize this photo. And this is the lunch counter at the bus depot. And we wait. Now these ones are fairly easy because they're the original is really good and a very good resolution, but it really does change everything. And AI is far from perfect. When you say out of every 10 photos I make colorize or make move, there's going to be some that don't get it right. There's one in particular of the bridge. When the bridge was open, then they showed it closing, and it looked like something out of Star Trek. It just didn't work at all. So AI is not perfect. Some of the photos are a little more damaged. So here's an example. This photo here of okay, water delivery on 10th Street and 2nd Avenue. It's almost unusable. It's in nasty shape. So what we're going to do, we're going to tell it to not only colorize, but also remove, we should call that fog, I suppose. Remove fog, and it should do what it's told. And we wait. Remarkable difference. Now, with this one, what we're going to do, we're going to save it somewhere. Isn't that awful when you save things and can't find them? So we're going to take this picture and use a different, this is called Grok.
And that's another app?
That's another app, another free one. And like I said, not easy to find them. There we go. So we take this picture and get rid of it. Now we're going to create a video. Now this AI, it's obviously just guessing. We weren't around in 19 or whatever that was, and so it's guessing at movement. Sometimes it gets them right, sometimes it doesn't. I did some pictures of elephants crossing Central Avenue, and when I asked them to move, they all walked backwards. So that didn't make the cut. And again, it takes a little bit of time. So once again, I think it's mentioned in the brochure, but the app's Grok. Oh, there you go.
All right, steady now. Giddy up, let's move.
Wow. See, that worked out pretty well.
All right, steady now. Giddy up, let's move.
And the water was not cooking all right.
Now, the guy's either really strong or he hasn't picked up his water yet.
Giddy up, let's move.
But how the technology does that is beyond me. It started out as a messy old black and white photo, went to color, then to
All right, steady now. Giddy.
you know, so it is pretty remarkable. Now we could keep doing this all day. There's lots of pictures. This one here.
Could you make Bob Charles' ball swing look good?
One thing it does is bring out detail that you might not ordinarily see. So we'll ask it to colorize again. And this is, in fact, I think it's a picture of some small community. I think it might be Weirdale or Meath Park. And there, it's a remarkable difference. Except that wasn't the picture I was looking for. The one I was looking for was this one. It's a picture of 2nd Avenue in likely the 60s. Spell check. Don't we hate spell check? One time I was typing colorized and it said colonized, and it said, I can't do that for you. So this one, we can see that that's the Coronet Hotel to your right. Then I think we see, way out in the outskirts is the OK Economy. And El Rancho, which is now Dairy Queen in the center of the, not Dairy Queen, sorry, KFC in the center of the picture.
So Gemini is just pictures.
Gemini is just pictures. It'll also do movement. Here's another picture that needs fixing. I think this is Central School, so we're going to colorize it and remove scratches. There's quite a couple of big dents and scratches across the photo. Come on. Then again, quite a change. Anyway, once again, when you get home, you really can do this yourself. Download the free app from the App Store. Google Gemini or Grok, and there's any number. There's Claude is another one, and Perplexity, and there's all kinds of them. If you don't have a scanner at home, and I'm guessing a lot of people don't, you can pick them up, by the way, under $100 now for a multifunction printer with a scanner. You can scan the photos, or cameras are so good on your phone that you can literally lay the picture out, watch out that you don't have any glare, make sure the picture is flat, and take a picture of a picture. And that old black and white photos in the box up in your attic will get into your photos library and go ahead and colorize them. And that's that. Like, we could keep coloring different pictures, but there's not a lot of point. Now, where am I? Well, I'm going to do one more. This is a house on the top of the viaduct. Topsy Valad used to live there. She was, I think, the first Winter Festival queen.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yes.
Now, by the way, if I say something and it's A, stupid, or incorrect, please yell it out. Anyway, yeah, that's on the top of the viaduct. Now, what we're going to do is, oh, by the way, in the podcast, they said it had 800,000 views for all of these color pictures. And it's unfortunate, but we live in a world where views and clicks seem to matter. Since October 10th, I believe it was, till a little while ago, there are the number of views your Prince Albert pictures have been seen by people in Saskatchewan. 4,200,000, which is kind of mind-boggling. Okay, now, what we're going to do, we're going to go the next part of your program. We're going to take a walk down Central Avenue. In 1960, we start right here, and we'll do a block at a time. United Office Machines, Parent Agencies, City Electric, PA Plumbing and Heating, Sherman-Williams, Parkway Flowers and Gifts, I don't recall. Central Hotel, now that location is where the Co-op store was built, which is now Plaza 88. Now, we cross the street, 2 shoe repairs in this.
Now we don't have any.
No, we don't have any. PA Trading Block, Fred Shoe Repair, Bodnar Agencies, another shoe repair, Sam Palais. Now, this wasn't the Palais store, but I don't know what that was. LA Plumbing and Heating, Pauline's Beauty Salon, Zubrax Drugstore, Blue Chain Store. Now, I apologize to the people who are young, and by young I mean under 70, or people that haven't lived here for a long time. This might not be as thrilling to you as people who are old, but here's Blue Chain Store.
Blue Chain is your family store. Blue Chain, family clothing, they're famous for. Blue Chain,
who's saying that, Jack Stennon?
Well, Jack Seddon was one of them. Alden Deal
Yeah.
was another one, and likely George Prosser, who was a
Yeah.
fairly good singer. So, back to reality. Chad Brothers. Palais Menswear, I remember they were the first place to ever have Beatle suits, which would have been in 63, 64-ish. Then the Strand Theater, which we saw in the clip earlier. Star Billiards was right in the basement, almost underneath the Strand Theater.
So I got my education.
We got his education.
We all got educated there, or either there or the Grotto. Volding Studio, Electric Shop, Craig Brothers, who also had the CB store, Morgan Career Girl, Wings Cafe, Miller Menswear, OK Economy, and the CB store. Now across the street, Binsky's department store. Why that is important? That's the location of the Salvation Army with that tragic Christmas Day fire on that corner. Ray's Diner would have got burnt as well. Fabric Center, LaCroix Agencies. Now that Fabric Center, was that Mrs.
No.
No.
She
No.
had a clothing store.
I didn't even.
Pelvis.
Mrs. Ether was up way
Mrs. Savard, I was going to say.
Savard, but that's a clothing store.
Well,
She's a clothing store.
you're getting ahead of me, Diane.
I think that was,
What?
what? Oh, this fabric store.
Across the street.
Yeah, but that one.
Oh, okay.
They have big beans.
Anyway, LaCroix Agency, City Market. Mr. Whitter ran City Market. Ladies Town, Mills Brothers, popular spot, Burkett's Flowers, Singer Sewing Machines, Batco Paint, and Eagle Stationery. Now, Eagle Stationery now is Fresh Air Experience, but Eagles moved down to about where City Market was. And that's where you had to line up and get your school books. Then we go across 10th Street, City Hall and City Hall Park, same place it is now, Imperial Bank, Metropolitan Stores across the way, Avenue Hotel and Shoe Shine. Now the Shoe Shine was in the Avenue Hotel. Then Sally Shops and Woolworths. Who was the lady that ran the Woolworths lunch counter? She wasn't real friendly.
I can remember going there, can't remember the name.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go up to 11th Street and pick on some more people. Duncan's Drugstore, Carmen's Jewelers. Now, I don't know if I should even mention this, but Carmen's Jewelers, where Sheila and I, who's here, got our wedding rings.
Come on.
What? I gotta tell them now. We traded in our rings from our previous marriages in March of 1977. And it's been 49 years of wedded bliss.
We're not gonna make 50.
TD Bank, Barkwell Agencies, Esquire Barbers, another beauty salon, Airways Cafe, I don't recall that, Electric Shop, Adams Bookstores, another place we had to line up and get our books, Aaron's Rent-Free first, C. Scorrigal worked there, and then he became his own for a year after that, and Bank of Commerce. And across the way, something interesting, in one block, 3 shoe stores. Rose Drugstore, Strohan Credit Jewelry, Agnew Surpass, there's one. Ted Matheson Menswear. Now, I bring this up because the average life of a business is 5 years, maybe 10 if you're really lucky. But to hit almost a century is remarkable, and still there and still doing extremely well. And we have, yes. And we have 3 Mathesons with us today, Diane, Fred, and Coke, and thank you for coming.
Hey, you're welcome.
And thank you for 100 years.
I wasn't there.
What kind of weather was, I was going to ask Diane, what kind of weather was like that in the opening day?
But I did work at the TD Bank across the street when I met Jack, so.
Oh, there's the story.
There you go.
Well, oh, it wasn't very, and you guys probably went to the Airways Cafe and snuck away. Then you got the CP Telegraph. Mrs. Morrison worked at the CP Telegraph. Bata Shoes, Howard Shoes, right next door to each other. Another fur store. Amos Cigar Store, Heritage Hardware, and then the Royal Bank. And we, Amos Cigar Store was a really neat spot.
But it moved too, didn't
In around the corner, I
it?
think, somewhere.
Down for it.
And then on, we crossed 12th Street, Bank of Montreal, Princess Cafe, Foreign Agencies, Mackenzie's Jewelers, which brings us to another ad. And again, apologies to people who just recently moved here.
For diamonds, for values are best. They're brighter by every test. Direct from the Catherine savings too, and the budget plan. It's so easy for you. Mackenzie's for diamonds, for values are best. Mackenzie's for diamonds, best in the West.
And again, we don't know who the lady is, but it was George Prosser doing the singing there, and as the radio station, they did their own jingles. And that brings us to P.O. Cafe, named after post office, of course. Across the street, Kresge's. Who would be parked outside of Kresge's all the time?
Popcorn.
Popcorn Man. Dayton's Grotto Billiards, their place, Rob Burns got his education. New Trend Furniture, Sobeys, and up top, the Bank of Nova Scotia. Rose Drug Store on 13th Street, Kernigan Hardware. Now that would be where Hool Furniture went, or in that neighborhood. Manor Beauty Salon, the Stag Shop, a menswear store. Lotus Cafe was around a long, long time. Central Fruit and Candy Kitchen, we saw Mr. McConnell earlier. It became Frank's Cigar Store. Jerry Gouda.
And what about the story about you?
No, we don't want to tell that story. Orpheum Theater, which became the Orpheum Plaza, not on your life. Orpheum Plaza, Campbell's Drugs. Okay, I was a bus driver.
Oh, he's gonna tell it.
I was a bus driver, and we would park the buses in front of Frank's Cigar Store and wait for the next run. I'd go to the West Flat, come back, park, wait 10 minutes, and then go the other way. Jerry Gouda, a fun-loving guy, we'd got to know them really well. I was doing the night shift, driving the bus, and my neck was really sore. We were just kids at the time, only maybe 19. And I complained about a sore neck. He says, well, I got a massager. I'll even throw in the batteries. You can just, it'll really help you out. So I took it, and away I go. I'm driving along, and some ladies got on the bus and started giggling as I was massaging my neck, which really worked, by the way. And when I heard them giggle, I took a look at it, and I said, oh, no. And sure enough, it was a personal product. And when I got back to Frank's Cigar Store, Jerry Gouda and a bunch of his pals were in tears. This 19-year-old bus driver was such a dope. Anyway. Orpheum, we better move on. I still have it, but no. Orpheum Theater became Orpheum Plaza, and what was across the street was Eaton's, and it was connected by a bridge, if you recall, from the Orpheum Theater, Campbell's Drug, Tadman's, and Sask Power. And then across the way, Eaton's, staple in Prince Albert, American Furs, Canada Building. Canada Building, by the way, had the first passenger elevator. People's Jewelers, Mount and Blakely, Williams Jewelers, Simpson Sears Medical Pharmacy. And the PA Co-op was originally on the corner of 14th Street, where the entrance to Gateway Mall is now.
I remember Safeway being in that area somewhere.
And OK Economy, and Safeway was down the street to the left. And well, I'm glad you mentioned Safeway. Just happen to have another one here.
Shop at Safeway. Safeway saves you more. All you need to remember is your Safeway store. Better meat, produce too. Safeway has the most for you. Shop at Safeway. Safeway saves you more.
Again, they're locally produced. Now, I wish everybody here was old enough to remember this one. It's a commercial that aired over 60 years ago, and even so, you're gonna know all the words.
Dry cleaners, for clothing clean professionally. PA, dry cleaners, try them once and you will see. Twice daily pickups and deliveries, assure you instant service at a price that will please. PA, dry cleaners, call Roger 44284.
But for people who were here at the time, it was, they must have played 10 times a day. But I was asked how I got started coloring photos. Well, these are pictures from a box of photos that sat in our house for years. It's all of our old family pictures before us 3 children came along. And until I colored them, I didn't realize that our parents were real people. I thought, well, they're parents, but they had a really good life. They dressed well. They weren't rich by any means, but they were really typical nice folks. Too bad we spoiled it all. We ruined them, by God, yeah. But anyway, if you don't want, do you want to colorize another couple, or are you okay?
Go ahead, do whatever.
Do whatever. Here's what we will do. By the way, an update, that was a little news break. Puerto Vallarta is in a sticky wicket right now. There's some cartel action going on downtown. Apparently the military is going to move in this afternoon and fix that. But for all the travelers that were going there, the airport is unfortunately closed. And so we wish them well. Now, what we're going to do now is we made a picture move with that guy with the empty water barrel, put it on the back of the car. What we've got here is a whole, in 15 minutes, we're going to go through 100 years of Prince Albert history with some music added, and hopefully you're going to enjoy. These all started out as black and white photos. Riverbank. Now, if you see something, just shout it out.
That's River Street.
River Street.
That is a big spot.
It's not too
Must be a Ferrari.
Yeah.
What was that? This one. Around here.
That was way out of the East Flat. This is the Shellbrook Highway. Oh. That's me driving a wagon from a movie. What you can't see is John Diefenbaker's signature up there. He said that to me. Friday of a long weekend.
Decibel win.
That's Ted Matheson.
tide, take our love letters from the sand. You made a vow that you would ever be true, but somehow that vow meant nothing to you.
There you go.
Broken heartaches with every wave that breaks over love letters in the sand. Now my broken heart aches with every wave that breaks over love letters in the sand.
City Hall Park. I think that's Manville's. That house is still there. Second Avenue and 22nd. Keyhole Castle. 6th Avenue and 22nd Street East, now Petrocam. What we've got, I've got a slide, that's basically all I've got to give you today. There's a couple of hundred pictures though we didn't get to because they weren't made into moving pictures for that last little segment. It's just a slideshow, and if you, I'll just let it run if you, anybody that wants to stick around. And other than that, thanks the Historical Society for all the original pictures, and it's been a full pile of fun. Thanks for coming out today. Oh, any questions? Please.
What's the story on the elephants?
Well, they were here, part of the Clyde Beatty Circus came through here. In fact, I got my brother, older brother, you saw him with the dog and the little sailor suit. Anyway, he took off with the Clyde Beatty Circus. They came by train down to the fairgrounds. He took off because he wanted to join the circus. He made it all the way to nearly Birch Hills. And he came back. But yeah, there was the circus came through here quite a bit.
Yes.
That's River Street.
That was the big attraction at the fair.
Yeah.
Like some of these are repeating, obviously. That's the, now, this broadcast is still going on. That was the Christmas cheer broadcast for the Salvation Army back in 1949, I think.
Christmas cheer, there's no snow.
No, well, there you go.
Oh, there's no
The condition of those calves.
Yeah. I think you could actually say that. I can remember taking a cab over there, were nice and clean.
There was an empty lot just near the bank. I don't know what came there. A CB store to the right, and then that Agnew building, that's where CKVI TV went.
Yeah. That's a seat.
Now the Bradford's is behind.
It's a central avenue right here. There's GC.
That was at the Orpheum Theater, Tommy Douglas.
Did he get a suit of Matheson menswear? Nice suit.
If AI can bring old pictures to life, can it do anything for me and my human body?
No, you're beyond repair. AI can only do so much, Rob.
Ay, ay, ay.
Oh, the Flamingo Hotel. That was on 2nd Avenue.
Wouldn't Jennifer like that?
If the walls could talk,
Wonder where that flamingo is.
I wonder.
They rented rooms by the hour, didn't they?
If you were lucky enough.
And who knew we had a traffic cop?
No.
Yeah. And that's back when Central Avenue was two-way, obviously.
Well, there are no lights.
Post office to the right,
Crispies.
right, there were no lights.
Or stop signs.
That's where you got the best. Butter tartans.
Best chips and gravy ever.
At 2 in the morning after the bar closed.
Now, was it there or Witters had the best chips?
Well, Witters was ribs. Witter had both though.
Oh, yeah, both.
Yeah.
That was on 6th Avenue and 15th Street. There's the Broadway Hotel, became Susie Q's and is now a parking lot. They've paved paradise and put up a parking lot.
That's where the dollar rooms were.
Oh, the doll.
Now, the dance hall at Sunnyside had an incredible history. The bands that played there, the Cascades, Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs, the Woolly Bully. You gotta be real old to remember that. But it had a lot of good acts. That is now in Northside as an antique store. There's Simpsons here. They moved that in the early 60s, or late 60s maybe.
Not Simpsons here, the dance hall.
Yeah, not here, the dance hall was moved, yeah. Sears stayed there.
Yeah.
Now there's Alan Barsky in the background with the glasses, and that is
That,
someone.
the guy that owned the. Oh, God.
Urban Bauer.
Yes,
The co-op.
Yeah. That's the Avenue Hotel. Shoe sign stand was below it. It was kind of a nice hotel.
I used to go to the back way for 4 beer in a bag for Earl.
That's where Jack got baptized.
Now there's the popcorn man. 15 cents. He put so much butter in there you could read through the paper bag.
That was our entertainment. You'd go and buy a bag of popcorn and sit on Central Avenue and watch people walk by.
Watch the people go
I'm
by.
surprised nobody's done that, like redid it.
PKBI float,
Oh, nice.
be pulled by a Pontiac by the looks of things. Metropolitan stores in the background. That lady's 97 now.
Rock Hudson, look at that. Captain.
Strand Theater was a beautiful building inside, wasn't it?
At the lounge.
Yeah, velvet seats.
And they had smoking and no smoking sections, and they were the same place.
J.C. Williamson's, that's.
Neil, did you ever find out who the little jewelry store off Central was?
It was,
With the two sisters?
No, that-
No? You don't remember? You don't know?
McDonald's.
Was it McDonald's? Okay.
that was Aaron's Ladies Wear. C. Scargill worked there, as I mentioned, and he had his own store just around the corner, and then again up on the 1300 block up Central. Blue Chain, Blue Chain. Now, the Blue Chain store, it started on Central, and you could walk right through and end up on River Street.
Was it always like
But
that?
they would yell at you if you did that. This is not the Blue Chain Highway, they would say.
That's where the shoe store was at the back. Zubrak's Drug, remember?
Now, there's the Binsky's, that's where the fire was on Christmas.
Yeah.
That's where the Salvation Army was.
Zubrak's Drugs, that, the one, the oldest daughter was an opera singer. Yeah. Luce, I can't remember what her name was. She was a.
Now, that's the old liquor store down to the right, and you can just see the roof of the Louis Riel bar. Another place, with walls that talk.
And tables.
That's the first incarnation of Harold's. It kept on growing and growing. Still there to this day on 28th Street, right across from Vincent Massey
And
School.
those houses or apartments are there.
Yeah,
Boychuk.
the Boychuk apartments. The Manville fire was huge. It was 1915, I believe.
I was.
That was right on Central Avenue.
People always out,
Now, Safeway was on 14th Street. What would be there now? Well, right in the middle of Gateway Mall.
Yeah. Yeah. It was behind the hotel. Which hotel? National? No, Lincoln.
No, the Lincoln, yes, it was behind the Lincoln. That's the Central Hotel that became the Co-op. Well, that's the place the Co-op was built.
That was right down at the end. Right.
Kitty corner.
Oh, there we go. That's the Louis Riel nightclub. You can see back mall being built behind it.
flashback, Neil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We sure.
It wouldn't open till 9. And to think we went out at 9, I can't stay awake till 9. Okay, there's the Skywalk.
That's where we met.
That went across from the Orpheum Plaza to Eaton's.
See, so really got colors, you think?
It was, no, it wasn't.
There was a store in it.
It was, that's probably
Yeah,
close.
I think he was ahead of
Again, more construction of the viaduct, so what year would that have been?
1939.
Very good.
1938.
Well, oh, probably, who got her?
What are we talking about?
Oh, they are.
The Empress Hotel, that would later would be the Astro Hotel.
Church in the basement.
It had a nickname, and I cannot for the life of me remember what it was. It was a pretty rough spot.
Oh, yes, that was.
Bucket of Blood, is that what it's?
Yeah.
There is the PACI snake dance.
Really?
That guy's named Nicholson, the guy with the blonde hair.
Oh, it is too.
And I likely know old Frank Harris back there in the Siwash. The snake dance is held every year on Halloween, and all of the high schools would march and hold hands all the way down to the armory for a big dance.
Yeah.
And it would get a little rowdy. Darn kids. And they all had a Siwash. It'd be interesting to know who these little girls were, because they would be in their 70s by now. Tiny talent.
And who's the man?
And I don't recognize the host at all.
That's not Ellen Deal, no.
That's the Minto Arena. Home of the Mintos. Johnny Horton played there in 1959.
Was that 8th Street?
That was 8th Street to 9th Street. It collapsed and then it burned down. And that's Manville's.
What did they sell?
They were pretty much everything. They were Walmart of the early days. They had everything. And everybody in a suit and tie. Well, now it doesn't show it, but that's Tilly's Pizzeria. Doris, you stupid! And she would get mad if you didn't finish your Jumbo Deluxe burger, which was the size of a spare tire.
And it was 25 cents at the time.
Now that's what is Carlton now, that's 6th Avenue. Carlton High School, it was called Tech, that's in 1963. And nothing beyond there. It was a gravel road on 6th Avenue. We've come a long way. A long way from these two guys too. Think they were pretty tough hombres?
Shirt and tie, though, look at that.
Yeah, all dressed. Probably going into town.
That's what my grandpa lived in.
There's another Bank of Commerce. There was a bank on all four corners.
Yeah.
And they're all gone now.
Yeah, they're all gone. Progress. They'll be back. Then again, that would be in front of City Hall, would be just to the left.
What is the trees, eh?
And the courthouse way in the center of the picture.
When was the courthouse built?
It was, I'm not sure. Love that T-Bird. That's Modern Motors. It was on, I think, 12th Street, perhaps.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Jimmy Pattison's either brother or dad or one of the relatives worked there. Jimmy Pattison, now a huge figure in Canadian business. Hannigan's, that became the Dairy Queen. It's now a dental office.
What was next door? What is it?
Well, it looks like a service station. Yeah. Okay, that's the Empress Theater. Boris Karloff played there at the Empress Theater. He spent some time in Saskatchewan, and this is where he cut his teeth. The Empress Theater, that would be where, I don't know what would be there now, First Avenue anyway. And this is across at the campground where everybody used to go. Nesbitt Campground, that's the one.
Really? It looks like water in the back, though.
Well, that's where AI comes in. Sometimes it doesn't know what it sees.
That's not, that wouldn't have been at Waskasiu.
This is Waskasiu.
Yeah, but
Oh, but the other one might have been.
I think
Well,
that
maybe
was
it was.
Waskasiu.
Call me a liar. I'm going to blame AI. That's Ross Hewitt at the 4 o'clock hop.
Oh, my God.
And this is a Hadley in the red,
Yeah.
I think.
Yes,
I
it
think
is.
you're right.
Look at
It
Reg
does
Kid,
look like
the rake.
And Reg Kit on the right.
Is that George Prosser?
Yeah.
Now, I took this picture in the mid-60s, and I don't know if I've seen another picture of the Pop Inn. It was a little cafe with only two little booths in it at the foot of the old railway bridge.
Yeah. It was really neat.
And
Avenue.
Avenue Hotel, maybe?
Wow, look at the balcony.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Oh.
Like the French Quarter.
Johnny Bauer, Prince Albert's own. He had a business up at Waskesiu. No mask.
Oh. We have a stool from that.
Back in the days when we men were men.
Stool?
Now that's Jim Scarrow jiving. They, who the lady was, I'm not certain. But that was at the Orpheum Theater on the stage for some event of some sort.
Look at the size of
It's
her.
been a dance contest.
That's not Helen?
I don't think.
One of the biggest employers in the city for a long, long time. And Burns burnt. That was 6th Avenue and 15th Street where Superstore is.
And you
Can you
can,
tell your story about Burns?
I used to shake hides at Burns.
oh, you and Joe Budnick.
Lincoln Hotel, first place I ever snuck into and was served.
Oh,
I think they did that a lot there because I can remember
They didn't seem to care. Oh, a tragic story there. There was 2 sides to the bar.
yeah.
Women with an escort on one side and no women allowed on the other side.
Awful, yeah.
In our lifetime. There's the coronet, and it's back to the coronet.
I worked there.
And Lois tells me she worked at Walkaway Shoes. And that's New Trend Furniture beside it.
Oh, you try to go in the basement.
Yeah.
Basement.
Yeah.
And they had a budget plan. Okay, this is Jerry and the Rondells. And we can't see Jerry. He is now Justice Gerald Albright. Come on. And Bob Tran on the right. Now that building is still there. That's on, I think, maybe 11th Street, down around 3rd Avenue East, 3rd or
Oh,
4th.
it's a
Yeah.
historical building.
Yeah.
A house now though, yeah. And they couldn't touch that outside.
Pretty classy building as well.
Yeah.
Oh.
The outside.
So that was on First Avenue and River Street. More from MLA. I don't know what that guy's wearing.
Original speedo.
And shoes. What is he here? My goodness.
I think it's his underwear. It's tidy whitey.
More Sunnyside Beach.
Sure, a lot of people, eh?
Motion at the front door at the lake. Now it costs $1,200 a year to park your boat at the lake. That's a sanatorium, a beautiful facility. A lot of history there.
Where was that?
Sadly, it's gone.
Where was that located? Across the river. Across the river.
That's where the powerhouse.
Where the Powerhouse Theater was, not far from the women's jail.
My girlfriend's dad was the,
Now, this is the Masonic building. There was a shoe repair. Rip Lockett had a shoe repair shop in that door over to the left. That was on 10th Street and 1st Avenue, I guess. Post office to the right. And again, these were all black and white historical society photos. St. Albans Church before the addition was put on.
For the auditorium.
Okay, I know. That's just my motion detector at the lake. Likely just a fox. Or a blue jay. They parked those trains on the bridge so it wouldn't lift up. Like I know in the video we saw them moving, but they weren't moving in real life.
And they were all loaded with.
Yeah. Now that was high.
I can remember when it was right to the, when we had to walk on the
Over
water.
to-
When you went to school.
Steve Rosnicki.
Steve.
Those when the new buses came in. I used to drive a bus, and I got a speeding ticket from Wilf Savisky. He stopped the bus and came right on. Now there's Ted Matheson. Grandpa Ted, pretty dapper.
Yeah, that's how old I am.
How old would he have been there, Fred?
I'm guessing in his 60s,
Like
Oh, I think-
yourself.
early 70s.
Now that City Hall Park, they really did it up well at Christmas time. Those are ice sculptures on the front.
They
Maybe
used
his
to have.
50s.
People look.
Oh, I
Yeah, no, because.
But don't forget, Central Avenue, that was all that there was.
He died? Yeah. I know, that's what I said.
Oh, I didn't.
Up the microphone.
Who is that? You know?
Yeah, who's this?
Neil,
Van Ness.
the
Oh,
gentleman from the Herald is here. Do you have a minute after you're done, or?
Oh, sure. Here, you take the microphone.
Give me that thing.
No, put it down.
Who's that?
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's 20th Street and 2nd
Yeah,
Avenue.
yeah.
Crapo used to live there. Oh, sorry.
Mr. Gill is a nurse's residence at the sanatorium. Well, this is in color.
Do you do this with any pictures?
I don't, no.
Yeah, that's the sanatorium.
Well, it's during a sanitary, so we'll go to it, it's right, and then it was for, North Park, and that was, it's just so sad.
Yeah, everything is.
Oh, yeah. It was old, I know, boilers, but, yeah, beautiful.
I'm sorry that we got interrupted, but the Herald gentleman had a schedule ahead of him, and he wanted to do an interview. But something comes to mind that Neil, when he said that pictures make history come to life. Years ago, not that many years ago, just a few years ago, a couple of us went up to the Herb Bassett home to present a presentation of the pictures of Central Avenue, like we're showing here, but not nearly with the color and the live action. But we were showing it at the Herb Bassett, and there was one lady sitting there, obviously suffering from some form of dementia, and totally not aware of what was being shown on the screen, picture after picture, picture. Neil said, these bring history to life. Well, all of a sudden, it was 1957, there's a picture of Craig's men's store, or Craig's ladies' wear, was it? And there was a red Ford car in front. And this lady just spoke, that's our car. That's our car, that's my husband's car. We were in that line to get into that store. Just brought the whole life to me. So I thought it was worth sharing. I'm very sorry, Connie, what we can do, but the Herald needed to do.
Gives me an opportunity, Morty. A couple things. Number one, if you like these photos, there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of them downstairs in one of the largest archives in Western Canada. And you have the opportunity to become a member of the Historical Society, and you would have the ability to work in the archives, to see all of those. And if you didn't want to go that far, you can always contact our archives, and there are people down there, volunteers, that will look for the photos you're interested in or the information you're interested in. Most people in Prince Albert, I'm amazed, aren't aware that they have access to that whenever they want. But Sandy is here and willing to sell memberships today if you're interested. Yes?
A few years back, I bought some discs that had all the pictures on them for like different decades.
Yep.
Do they still do that? Well, I don't know, how can I even access my disc anymore?
Well, that's it, I don't know how they would burn a disc.
Well, I mean,
Thank God, probably a flash drive now because
but how, that's right, I got them on disc, but then how can I see them? I'll
you
have to
can buy
load them on.
you can buy portable disk drives that plug into your USB on your
Or
computer.
if you have a really old computer,
Yeah, then I'd have to save them.
You're saying it's like that pile of LPs I have at home that I have nothing to play in. Yeah.
Yes, you're in.
Oh, there probably are some good ones. Depends what you define as good.
Who was the milkman?
Charlie Square.
Well, he was one, wasn't he?
But what's the,
Yeah, they're all before 1960.